It is 7 o'clock. I am going to call the Personnel Administrative Affairs Committee to order. Today is November 6th, 2023, and I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Alderwoman at Large Shoshana Kelly. Alderman at Large Ben Clemens, Vice Chair.
Here.
Alderman Tyler Govea.
Here.
Alderman Thomas Lopez. Alderman Derek Tebow is here. We also have Alderman Patricia Klee, and we have Planning Director or Planning Manager Director Matt Sullivan, who will be in place of the mayor tonight.
Okay. We also have City Clerk Keeler here as well.
True.
Alderwoman Kelly did reach out to me, and she is feeling ill, so I am taking her place as chairman this evening, and so we do have a quorum. All right, the first thing on the agenda is public comment. Is there anybody here that would like to address the committee this evening? If so, please come forward.
For anything on the agenda.
For anything on the agenda. Please come up to the microphone.
Is for anything on the agenda?
For anything on the agenda, yep, so
Okay.
please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Wayne Saya, and I reside at 24 Cadigan Way in Nashua.
Okay,
I don't know what ward that is, because for 30 years we lived on Pemberton Road before we sold.
Might be 9.
So, but anyway, I'd like to speak about the electronic voting machines.
yep, please do.
There's only two concerns, and oh, by the way, thank you for allowing me to speak.
Mhm.
And so, respected members of the board, I just want to explain that two items. One of them is that when I was a regulatory guy over in DC, there's a lot of things with regard to the voting rights. And here, the way that the, not ordinance yet, but the resolution is written, it's written to allow the city of Nashua to be permitted to have the machines. And that's actually problematic because the Constitution only allows the legislature to give that permission, not the municipalities. And so number one, the resolution as written, and I think I explained this earlier during the Alderman meeting, needs to be changed so that you're requesting an upgrade of the machines. The resolution as written does not request an upgrade of the machines. It's requesting Nashua to be permitted to use and have these machines, which isn't a municipality's permission to ask for. They don't have the constitutional authority to do that. Only the state does. Number two, there's already a state law in place with regard to what Nashua is requesting. And Nashua can't request anything where a state law already exists, because this is a non-home rule state. And if there's already a state law in place, then Nashua is supposed to be following that state law and not creating another state law that either is similar to it or supersedes it. You can only create a municipal law that where a state law doesn't exist. And here, the state law already exists.
30 seconds?
I'm sorry?
30 seconds, sorry.
Oh, I'm not used to all of that.
Oh, that's okay.
So that's why I'm asking, and the third is, I would suggest for consideration, table it until after the case that is currently in the New Hampshire Supreme Court that's being heard, I believe, on the 28th or 29th of this month. It's challenging the electronic machines. If you pass this resolution now, authorizing the funding for it, you're doing three things. You're approving an ordinance, a resolution that goes to the board.
I have to cut you
Yeah,
off
time's
at this
up.
point.
But why would you want to do that?
We don't want to.
I don't want to, but you're allowed 3 minutes. I let you go over by 15 seconds because I know you took up some of the time at the beginning.
Okay.
So I allowed you a little leeway, but
Well, I mean, I'm saying that it evolved, does away with controversies. And you don't, why create a controversy? Okay?
Thank you for coming.
It was my
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the committee at this time? All right, seeing none, we will move on to communications.
There is none.
Okay, so we're going to move into interviews, and we have, the first set of interviews is the Board of Building and Fire Codes Appeal, and I believe that Director Sullivan is here in place of the mayor, so if you want to invite up the appointees as well to come with you.
Mr. Chair, would you prefer that we do one at a time for the appointees to come up, or are you comfortable with both?
Why don't we do them all at once?
Gentlemen, come up. Scott. Cameron, we'll get to you in just a moment.
And Director Sullivan, I'm going to give you the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Matt Sullivan, Community Development Director, joined this evening by Carl Dubois and Scott Cody for interviews related to the Board of Building Code and Fire Codes Appeals. And I'm going to allow these gentlemen to introduce themselves in just a second, but for a bit of background, there were actually 3 appointments in front of you this evening for this board. And the reason for that is that the Building Code Appeal Board was established back in 2016. There was a reform of legislation at that point in time to redefine the membership. But subsequent to that redefinition of the membership, the city has actually not encountered a situation requiring the usage of this particular board. And so the board was not actually constituted. As it happens, we have received an action or an appeal requiring the use of this board. And so the mayor, working with city staff, sought out 3 to 4 to 5 individuals to actually sit on the board and serve within that role. To talk quickly about the role that they'll serve in, this board is actually responsible for reviewing appeals of the building official and the interpretation and application of the building code to projects around the city. So really it's sort of an administrative appeals body that's used from time to time as may be required. And again, we have an instance before us where this board needs to be asked to hear a case. With that said, it's particularly important with this board that we have subject matter expertise because these are technical matters being reviewed and being appealed. And for that reason, I'm very pleased to present 2 individuals this evening on behalf of the mayor, Scott Cody and Carl Dubois. You may know these gentlemen, obviously, just to start quickly, and I'll let them introduce themselves, but Scott has a history of being a member of the Board of Aldermen and also nearly 30 years, I think, with Southern New Hampshire. In the facilities department there, has extensive experience with building, construction management, and the like. And certainly the same goes for Carl. With Harvey Construction, has been responsible and involved with multiple city projects, extensive knowledge of the building code, actually served on the state's building code review board as well. But I'll stop there. The resumes were included within your packet for review, but I'm just very pleased on behalf of the building department, the mayor, to introduce these 2 gentlemen for interview tonight.
Okay?
Can I announce them?
Sure.
Okay, I just want to make sure we
Yep.
go by the rules here. So Board of Building and Fire Code Appeals, we have Scott Cody, a new appointment, term to expire October 13th, 2026, 39 10B Drive, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03062. And also Carl Dubois, a new appointment, term to expire September 13th, 2026, 31 Holbrook Drive, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03062. And you said, Director Sullivan, we do not have Mr. Slattery tonight?
Mr. Slattery was unable to attend
Okay.
this evening.
Thank you.
All right, so I will turn it over to you, gentlemen, and we'll start with Mr. Cody.
Good evening, Alderman Clemens. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
My name is Scott Cody, as was mentioned. I live at 39 Tenby Drive in Nashua, and pretty much have lived in Nashua since my early adulthood at this point. Work over at the Southern Hampshire Medical Center as the Vice President of Facilities and Emergency Management. Have been very involved in a lot of capital projects, not only for the medical center, but also for the community as well. Interestingly enough, this is actually a reappointment for me, believe it or not. So I served on this group before, but we never had a case. So I think the terms just expired, as they did, which was fine. So I certainly got the call to consider coming back. It's a good committee to serve on when you don't have a lot of meetings to go to. So certainly willing to help any way I can. Interestingly enough, with the building codes in Nashua, my history goes back quite a ways to 1999 with Bill Walsh when he was the original building inspector at the time, and he and I partnered together to introduce the international building codes to the city of Nashua. In fact, we were one of the first communities in the state of New Hampshire that adopted the IBC codes back then, and that was a tremendous amount of work in terms of developing that and bringing it into the city of Nashua. So there's a lot of history there, a lot of knowledge, a lot of memory there. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Well, I'll let Mr. Dubois introduce himself.
Good evening, folks. Carl Dubois, 31 Holbrook Drive. Moved to Nashua early 80s and recently retired in December of last year. In the commercial construction management industry for 43 years. Served on many, many projects in Nashua, a lot of school projects, as Alderman Clee knows, but various other projects throughout the city of Nashua. I also served and was appointed on the State Building Code Review Board. I served on that for 3 years, and I was the chair of the International Building Code Committee that brought forth the recently adopted 2018 version. The state always likes to stay 3 years behind. So 2021 has already been approved elsewhere, but they want to go through 2018. The group that is now presently, the gentleman out that took my spot, is now trying to get through the 2021 edition and all the amendments that go with it to bring that forth to the state legislature for approval, and that'll be coming up here shortly. I was asked to serve. I've known folks in planning and the building department all these years, always had a lot of respect for them. I think with my background in building construction, commercial construction, and my history in codes, I said, sure, why not? I'd be willing to serve.
Great.
Happy to be here.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. All right, so I'm going to open it up to the committee and others present if they have any questions or comments. Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Chairman Clemens. As Mr. Dubois said, I've worked with him quite a bit on school projects through the Joint Special School Building. He was always right there to answer, never pulled any punches, knew everything, yeah. Even sometimes we didn't want to hear things, he was there to tell us. And truthfully, to be honest with you, through COVID, it was nice to have that voice of reason to say, this is not looking good. He was always prepared, purchased earlier than they were going to be able to use it because he saw the trend coming and so on. So I think this kind of knowledge and so on would be incredible on this type of a board. So I hope that you'll give a positive.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? I will just thank both of you for your serving, first of all, for all your extensive history in serving Nashua in various roles. You both have served our community well, and I know that in this position, you bring a lot of expertise and experience, and I am going to support both of your nominations, so thank you. All right, we will take up your appointment later in the meeting. Thank you very much. All right, so next we have the planning board.
Cameron Green, new appointment, term to expire May 31st, 2024, 82A Amherst Street, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03064.
Okay, and I'm going to go to Director Sullivan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm excited to offer for interview this evening Cameron Green, a candidate for the planning board here in the city of Nashua. You're all very familiar with the activities of the planning board, whether good, bad, or indifferent, but certainly a very active and involved board requiring a great level of attention to detail, preparation, and expertise. And for that reason, we were pleased that Cameron came forward to the mayor's office, and I've had a chance to have a few meetings and discussions with him with an interest in serving on that board, and even more pleased that Cameron's background, expertise, and education, I think, would provide a unique perspective to the board, particularly in his background in facilities management and engineering. I won't talk in detail about the fact that he also went to my alma mater of Miami University of Ohio, but certainly always good to see someone over here from my alma mater, so very pleased about that. But in all seriousness, very excited about the expertise that Cameron and perspective that Cameron will bring to the board. And frankly, as a newer Nashua, just that perspective from outside of the city that really, I think, excites me, and I think will excite the planning board, particularly as we're seeing a change of leadership at that board right now, and really looking for some new folks to step in. So I'm happy to present him this evening for consideration.
Okay. Mr. Green, please introduce yourself to the committee.
Yeah, I'm Cameron Green, 82A Amherst Street. Like he said, I'm a new resident to Nashua. I came here 2 years ago almost, starting in February. Since then, I've been working at BAE as a senior facilities project engineer, so capital projects as well as some smaller projects and maintenance-related activities. So I get to work with multiple cities. I've worked with Nashua, Merrimack, and Manchester in my 2 years here, so very different cities, all with their quirks and intricacies, what they want to see, what they care about. So, but the reason I applied for this board was more because my interest in just getting more involved with the city. It's a great city. I did the same in my last one. I was in Fort Worth for about a year with their Steer Fort Worth. They just a civic engagement group within the city for younger individuals to contribute to the city. So it's more the experience to give back what I can and make the city what I love and the people around me love. So that's kind of my reason for wanting to join the board, as well as it fits within my expertise. So
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I am going to open it up to the committee and to other members. Alderman Tebow.
Thank you. So what do you think about asphalt plants? I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Don't answer that.
Sullivan almost had a heart attack.
So,
May I respond to that just very briefly? I've briefed Mr. Green and prepared him for these questions and told him under no circumstance should he answer them. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, I just want to thank you for coming forward. I am an alternate to Alderman Klee when she decides to speak out against stuff. I can back her up and go on the planning board. So it is, a board that meets a couple times a month, and it's something where you have to have knowledge, because I know I don't know a lot of the stuff on there, sitting there as
We're
the
learning.
alderman. So I appreciate you coming forward. I know that there was some leadership that's going to change there, and so it's good to get new blood in there and a different perspective. So thank you for coming forward. That's a hard board to fill, so thank you for that.
Alderman Klee.
Thank you. The only kind of non-question or just kind of comment, well, I think it's a question, is that as Alderman Tebow said, I am on that board as the aldermanic liaison, and it does meet twice a month. And the one thing that I find with so many boards is that we have quorum issues.
Mhm.
And 2 times a month, after working all day long and so on, can be a strain. Is this going to be an issue? I mean, I know the answer probably be no, it won't be an issue, but is it something you've really thought about? I mean, summers and so on, they don't meet quite as much, but.
yeah, no, I definitely a great question. So I, in my spare time, play a lot of volleyball, and which is late at night anyways. So I'm used to staying up late, working on stuff, and continuing to function during the day as a normal person, and then hitting the next day to then again to have another late night and continue on, working. It's a little different because you have to study and that, but I'm also working on my master's as well. So I'm finishing up the 26th of November. So all that with work together, it'll just be a perfect transition of like switch over to something else. So I'm used to doing extra after work. It's not like it's going to be a huge push, especially now that my classes are ending soon. So.
Just a quick.
Yep, please.
I know our chair is changing, but we have had a good chair who doesn't like to force us to go beyond 11 o'clock at night, but we do often go to 11 o'clock at night, sadly, and things get continued and so on. So, to be young. So thank you.
Okay.
I've been around in one of the meetings that Scott went over. So
Yes.
yeah, it's definitely you guys get a lot of tough questions, a lot of interesting perspectives. So I understand that it can go late.
Yeah, I'm usually the fly in the ointment. So, Alderman, gonna call him
Alderman-
Director Sullivan will tell you that.
Alderman Gouveia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to quick comment. I think it's great anytime we find a candidate for any board who graduated college same year I did. So it's good to see we're bringing the average age down even more. So this is fantastic. But the background seems to fit perfectly. The role at BAE, I think it's pretty clear you obviously know planning. So I think this would be a very good fit, and it would be good to bring in kind of a more youthful and different set of eyes at these type of issues they conquer.
Okay. And just to say thank you very much for coming forward. I appreciate that. You know, especially as a new resident of Nashua, wanting to get involved and be involved in the community. You know, it's not always an easy task to find something that you're passionate about, and especially in city government. So I really applaud you that you came forward and found that thing, and I'm happy to support you, and I think you'll do well in that role, so.
Thank you, yeah.
All right, so we will take up your appointment momentarily.
All right,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next on the agenda is application to license hawkers, peddlers, itinerant vendors.
There is none.
All right, we will go to appointments by the mayor, but before we do that, did you want to hold the appointment for Mr. Slattery?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, all right,
Yeah, Matt
Okay.
says yes.
okay, all right. I'll let you go ahead and figure that out.
All right. So I'd like to make a motion at this time to recommend the following reappointment to the Airport Authority, Brian H. Law, with a term to expire August 31st, 2028. Do you want me to go through them all at one time?
Yeah, just go
Okay.
through them all.
Also to recommend the following appointments to the Board of Building and Fire Codes Appeals, Scott Cody with a term to expire October 13th, 2026, Carl Dubois with a term to expire September 13th, 2026. Also to recommend the following reappointments to the Citizens Advisory Commission, Jennifer Bishop with a term to expire November 1st, 2026, and Lisa Taranjo with a term to expire October 1st, 2026. Also to recommend the following reappointment to the Cultural Connections Committee, Bernadette Melton Plant, with a term to expire April 30th, 2025. Also to recommend the following new and reappointments to the Planning Board, Cameron Green with a term to expire May 31st, 2024, Maggie Harper with a term to expire March 31st, 2026, and Lawrence Hirsch with a term to expire March 31st, 2026. And to recommend the following alternate to member to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, A. John J. Minkara, with a term to expire September 11th, 2025.
Okay, we've all heard the motion. Is there any comments? Alderman Gouveia.
Yeah, I just want to quickly comment on Brian Law being reappointed to the Airport Authority. I sit as liaison to to the authority, and I think he does a great job. I think everybody over there right now is very dedicated to the growth of the airport, and it will be really good to have him back on.
Okay,
Thank you.
any other questions, comments? All right, so we've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. And those appointments will be taken up at the next Board of Aldermen meeting for final approval. All right,
Swearing in.
and swearing in, yes,
Doesn't need approval, I don't think. It's just swearing in.
correct. All right, unfinished business, we have
There is none.
new business resolutions.
We have R-23-165, adopting the use of new electronic ballot counting devices. I'd like to make a motion to recommend, final passage
Okay.
of R-23-165.
And I'll invite Mr. Healy up now, but I know Alderman Clee wants to also discuss that, so I'm going to give you the floor, Alderman Clee.
Thank you, and if Mr. Healy wants to come up and, because I am going to pass it off to him, but I did want to clarify some comments that have
If-
been made.
If you want to take a seat.
You can-
Yeah.
Take a load off. You got a busy day tomorrow.
One of the items that was kind of mentioned was that we don't have the authority to approve these electronic machines, but RSA, I want to make sure I have this one right, 65640 has given the municipalities the authority to do such in that respect. And I believe that, and Mr. Healy can speak to this, City Clerk Healy can speak to this. According to his notes that he had given me, that this has been approved as of, I think, January 15th, 1971, for us to be able to do this. So this isn't something that's new. The main key here is that there are 2 vendors that the state is allowing us to pick from. And that's kind of what this is authorizing us to do. I think we already gave that authorization. It's just a matter of bringing it forward. So at this point, I'm going to let Mr. Healy speak to all of that.
So, Dan Healy, City Clerk for Nashua. So this resolution authorizes the city to use the Dominion ImageCast ballot counting devices. We have the funding already. It's been in escrow for a couple of years, so there's no money that we're looking to get to purchase this equipment. As Alderman Clee stated, that the electronic ballot counting devices have been used in Nashua since January 15th, 1971. We have an election tomorrow, and in all 9 wards, we're using electronic ballot counting devices. This is basically just upgrading what we currently have to newer devices. And we're not the only town or city in the state that is bringing this forward to their governing body. A few communities have already done so. Basically, the choice is now there's 2 vendors that offer newer devices. There's Voting Works, which when I went to their demo, they have approximately 8 employees. I don't see that working for Nashua. On election days, if every community in New Hampshire purchased Voting Works, they wouldn't have the staff to service. The current vendor that we use, LHS out of Salem, is offering the Dominion ImageCast devices. During our testing of the ballot counting devices a few weeks ago, one of the tabulators was having issues, and I called them, and it was end of the day. It was probably 4:30. They were here at 8 in the morning to fix that tabulator. So I can drive there in probably 30 minutes. They have hundreds of employees. We've been using them for probably 20 years. This is just an upgrade of what we currently have, which is near end of life. The general election in 2022, one of the devices stopped working at 7:45. We had to get a spare over there, switch out the memory card. That one went in for service. It's working again, but those are the issues we're running into. So it's not proposing that Nashua uses electronic ballot counting devices. That's already been done. This is just an upgrade. The tabulator, the device is very similar in shape and size to what we currently have, but it's 20 or 30 years of newer technology. And for anyone listening to this, they're not connected to the internet. That's New Hampshire law. They cannot be connected to the internet. And then also, the Ballot Law Commission has approved these two electronic counting devices. They have until March 1st to meet all the conditions. But this process that we're doing was recommended. It's recommended guidance from the New Hampshire Secretary of State. So all town and city clerks got a memo from the state suggesting that you approve the use of the new electronic ballot counting device. The device we use now, the AccuVote, not all towns and cities approve that specific device, but they didn't necessarily have to. This is just in addition to the ordinance that we already have. It's just a second step. So
Okay.
that helps.
And just to clarify as well for the public, so these still use, they're still paper ballots that people are filling out, and in the case of a close election, those ballots can be hand recounted, correct?
Yes, so if someone requested a recount, we have the paper ballots. So the only thing that's really changing is just upgraded to a newer
Okay.
device.
Yep. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Alderman Govea?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I remember a few cycles ago, I was doing a projected turnout around the city. And I was seeing City Clerk Healy all around, and a lot of it was is these tabulators were breaking down or malfunctioning or having issues. So just from a consistency standpoint, I feel this is good. We need to upgrade, and if it's the newest technology and they're saying it works and it's what the direction we want to go in, you're the expert when it comes to this kind of area. So to me, it seems like a real no-brainer.
Alderman Clee?
Yes, and I want to echo what my colleague from Ward 1 had said. Being in Ward 3 and having been there at least one election past midnight because of machines and having to do a lot of hand counting and things like that, I do appreciate the newer machines coming for this next big election that we will be having. So.
I just want to add too that the state first had demos on newer tabulators back in 2019. So the state's been looking at this for years. They had demos on these newer devices earlier this year. The sessions were open to the public. They're open to election officials. Some of the vendors are still having demos throughout the state. So people can actually go and see these devices and see the demos happening. If they are approved, we're going to have, one of the things they offer is training for all the election officials on the newer tabulator too.
Do you know if assuming this passes the Board of Aldermen, do you know what the first election might be that we would use it?
It would be the state primary. Currently, that's scheduled for September. There is some legislation right now up in Concord to move that date, but right now it would be for the election in September.
Okay, so we wouldn't have it ready for the presidential primary, unfortunately.
We wouldn't have it for presidential primary because both vendors have until March 1st to get their full approval.
Yeah.
So unless they get it earlier, we wouldn't have it.
And to clarify that point, I imagine we wouldn't purchase anything until after March 1st, until that
Correct.
gets, okay.
So I've reached out to the vendor, I've gotten the quote, and I've asked for 10 devices to be held, pending Board of Aldermen approval and pending their conditional approval.
Okay, perfect. Yep. Alderman Tebow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So being a previous ward clerk, I know how these older machines work, and I certainly was grumbling many times because there was issues, or we had to call the city clerk at the time to come down and do something with it. So I fully support going to the newer technology and the newer device. I like Alderman Govea said, I trust that you're the expert on these, and if you're coming to us saying that this is what's needed, I believe it, so I'm going to support it.
Yeah, and just to, leave my own comments, I support it as well. Reason being is, and I know that Alderman Clee kind of reassured me on this, but it's a state law that we have to have paper ballots. I think that's very important that you have that physical backup. So, knowing that, I can fully support this. So, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, the motion before us is to recommend final passage. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Healy.
Thank you.
Good luck tomorrow.
Try to get some rest tonight.
All right, new business ordinances.
There is none.
Tabled in committee, I don't know if we want to take that up.
I do not.
Okay. I'm going to go back to, we have a second public comment period. Is there anyone that would like to speak? So, before you start, you have 3 minutes. Just state your name and address and we'll start the clock. All right?
Okay.
All right.
Wayne Sayer,
Yep.
24 Cadigan Way, Nashua, New Hampshire.
There you go.
I was listening to the gentleman who was just speaking, and first and foremost, the law that was referred to is a temporary law that was passed decades ago. And one of the things that the New Hampshire High Court is about to hear is with regard to whether or not the Ballot Law Commission has the authority to give municipalities these types of recommendations with regard to electronic machines. And the reason is because a case just came down from the U.S. Supreme Court regarding North Carolina that prohibited and that challenged the effects of boards that go over the legislative intent when it comes to voting. It doesn't take away from anything else other than the fact of voting, because voting is a federal issue as well. So when this municipality votes for something that only the federal requirements stipulate that has to come from a state legislature, now municipalities getting involved in that. And that's the issue that I had. The final thing is that if they're not going to be purchasing the machines until March, there shouldn't be any problem with tabling this issue until after it's heard in the Supreme Court by the end of this month. So I would suggest that the board at least reconsider their vote that was just taken and table it until, at least until after the case is heard down up in Concord at the end of the month. And that way there, you haven't designated any funds that now, I don't know whether or not you can undesignate it from an account that it's going into. And so therefore there's no harm, and it's a win-win for both sides to just table the issue until after the court hears the case. And therefore, at that point, you'll hear what's going on with the Ballot Law Commission and their recommendations to the nice gentleman behind me that the Ballot Law Commission doesn't have that authority. And so that's where I'm coming from. And I thank you very much for listening to me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak this evening? Seeing none, we're going to go to general discussion. I will just remind everyone, tomorrow is Election Day. Please go out and vote. The polls are open in Nashua from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., so make some time and go out and engage and do your civic duty. Thank you. Remarks by Alderman? Seeing none, do I have a motion? Alderman Gouveia?
Yeah, I move to adjourn.
Motion is to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries, and we are adjourned at 7:37 p.m.